What's going on, everybody, and welcome in to a special edition of the Open Run, presented to you by none other than War Media. My name is Gabriel Wilkins. I be him, and I'm joined once again with my partner in crime, my co-host, my man, Josh Hicks. Man, how you feeling?
Man, I'm all right. Look here, y'all. Take care of yourselves out here in these streets. This bug is no joke. I had the flu all week. Still
Yeah, I
recuperating.
heard you talking to
And
us about this.
yeah, it ain't no joke. So whatever y'all doing, wear y'all mask and everything. Make sure you're vaccinated. You know, but hey, I'm telling you, these streets, you ain't missing anything. Be careful in these streets, man. These bugs, no joke. These bugs are no joke.
I feel you on that, bro. I'm in the process of trying to get a flu shot right now. I'm already vaccinated against COVID or whatnot, but I understand. I know it's definitely running around like wildfire, so you definitely got to stay safe out here, stay on your square. But
Six.
you got 11 games going down across the association this evening. Bucks and the Lakers are playing right now in Milwaukee, set to go to the half. Lakers up by 6 at the moment in the final 30 seconds of the quarter, in the second quarter there. You got big time showdown, of course, with the Bulls and the Warriors on ESPN, set to take place at 9:30 or 9 o'clock, excuse me, Central Time. But before we get into that big time matchup with the Bulls taking on the defending champs, I want to ask you what three things have impressed you the most or stood out to you, if not caught your eye, over the last several days or so across the NBA, is we are currently in week 7 of the regular season, I want to say. So, like, you got anything that stood out to you or caught your eye on that, Josh?
Whew, man. I think for me, it's not necessarily. Well, first off, you got to go with Luka Doncic. What Luka's doing with, I want to say, it was his 41-point triple double that he just had. That's Luke. That's vintage Luka right there. To see him performing at a high elite level that we know he's capable of, being the number one scorer in the league, it's impressive. And there's never a night of basketball where you don't get impressed by what Luka what Luka does on the court, not just from scoring, but vision, passing the ball effectively, being that big guard rebounder, and elevating the Mavs to the next level. So I think anything that Luka does is going to be special to watch. And his 41-point performance against the Warriors, hey, that was a heck of a game to watch and recap on last week. But outside of that, look what Kevin Durant is doing. Kevin Durant has been going nuts throughout this past week, and not just doing it with high numbers of points scored, but at such an efficient rate. I want to say the last game that he scored 45 and only missed 4 shots. Like that efficient scoring is so unique. And it's something that cannot be overlooked. This is what happens when you leave a team that you were once the leader of and actually go to another franchise that knows what it takes to win and knows how to do it at such an effective rate, where you get to pick up and improve your skill set and understand that the game is not about volumes of shots. It's about how efficient with the shots you take and the shot selection that comes with it. Him learning that and mastering that in Golden State clearly has transcended his game in another level all the way throughout to his time now in Brooklyn. And he is scoring at such a high rate with efficient numbers. It's ridiculous, man. So that's definitely something that caught my eye as well, along with Luka Doncic. And I know we're going to eventually get into this later on. But what gets my eye is why everybody want the Lakers to keep winning when knowing dang well they trash. That's what blows me, man. All these rumors about Lakers got to make these moves, and we got to keep LeBron winning, and then attaching the Bulls to it. Talking about we got to get DeMar DeRozan, we got to get Vucevic out in LA. Man, look here.
We're gonna get into that, bro.
You're right. We're gonna get into that. But I'm just like, good Lord. I understand it's the Lakers and everything. LeBron is there. But dang, you can't go one day without hearing about the Lakers might win a championship. They ain't winning nothing. They ain't winning jack. It's over, okay? The championship era is over. I'm sorry, Laker fans. I hate to break your heart. I know it hurts. It burns. I understand. But guess what? You're not going anywhere, right? You're not going anywhere. Okay? You're not going anywhere. AD can barely stay healthy. Much as I love Russell Westbrook and the role that he's in right now, y'all being competitive. That's not going to take you to the next level. LeBron James is LeBron James. And around you guys and around the rest of y'all, let's be very serious. Trash. You're trash. You're walking down the streets in New York right now in the subway, and there's trash everywhere. That's what it is, right? It's a whole dumpster fire over there. Come on, you're not going to the championship. Stop attaching the Chicago Bulls to your mouths. Cause guess what? We ain't going anywhere either. All right, so it doesn't matter.
We're gonna get into that, bro. We're gonna get into that, but you got to think about this too, though, Josh. Like for real though, like the reason why you seeing the Lakers attached to a lot of rumors, bro, is for the simple fact that they really can't afford to tank, because if they do, that's gonna be to New Orleans' benefit, who owns their first round draft pick over these next couple years as a byproduct of the AD trade. So they always gonna be in rumors just for that alone, and the fact that they got LeBron James, you know, like a guy. Let's be real, like before he got to LA, he had went to the finals 8 years in a row. So, you know, people are used to the standard being set. And like for LeBron to not have made the playoffs in 2 out of his first 4 seasons in LA, yeah, you know, that's gonna raise a lot of people eyebrows, man. So I get it. But the top 3 things I say that stood out to me was first and foremost is Killian Hayes. The way he's been playing in Detroit. You know, this was a guy that got ostracized, and a lot of people were, you know, across the Metro Detroit area wondering whether or not the Pistons should send him down to the G League or not, and not allowing him to grow like most young players through his mistakes. You know, we have such a bad habit when we watch this game nowadays across, you know, the basketball landscape to just throw the book on a guy or just say, hey, he just ain't it. Well, over the last several games, he's been fairly solid. You know, he had 17 and 8 on Friday last week against the Suns, albeit in a loss. It was a very close game that went down to the wire. And then last night, with the only game in the association, shined brighter than Luka in winning time, putting up like 12 or 14 out of his 22 points between the fourth quarter and overtime to help the Pistons take a 6-point win against Dallas in an overtime thriller. He's been shooting the lights out from three-point land. He's making plays in the pick and roll game. He's also been very active defensively, helping big time on blitz coverages. Dwayne Casey was praising for it. And even though he's a guy that plays in a small market, I think he's going to be called upon to play in a much larger role, with Cade Cunningham potentially being out for the season due to suffering a shin injury. So that's a guy I think a lot of people need to keep their eyes on. Reminds me a lot of a young D'Angelo Russell. And not only by the way that they play on the court, but off the floor. You know, that was a guy that a lot of people tried to write off too when he was in Los Angeles, gets traded to Brooklyn, becomes an all-star. Even though Killian Hayes long-term may be the 6th man in Detroit, shall he stay long-term, the work that he's put in on his jump shot is paid off after struggling early on with it and really not finding success there right away in the Motor City. And then another guy that's really stood out to me also is Jason Tatum. To put up 49 points against Miami the way he's been doing, getting to the money in the restricted area. He's a guy you can tell that's very hell-bent on doing whatever it takes to win. Could have easily had 50 points in that game. Al Horford tried to set a screen for him. He was like, no, man, I'm good. I already got a 50-point game. You could tell that he has his eyes on the prize. And in my opinion, right now, he's looking like the MVP of the NBA, without question. He's improved his game immensely. And not only has he improved as a scorer and finding a way to attack and get downhill, not settling for jump shots like he has in past years, he's also getting his teammates more involved in games, late in games during winning time, and it's helped the Celtics to find a lot of great success as of late under their first-year head coach, Mazzulla, under him doing a damn good job. And then last but not least, I'm talking about Jason Tatum. I got to talk about the Boston Celtics offensively. This is a team that's on pace to have a 50-40-90 season as a team. You know, the worst shooter on their team right now is Marcus Smart, and he's shooting 44% from the field, which is pretty good. You know, it just goes to show you how great they've been in sync with one another offensively. And the scary part is their defense, which was the backbone and one of the main reasons why they were able to get to the finals a year ago. It isn't even up to par just yet. They're 20th overall in defensive efficiency, yet they have the best offense in the league. Why? Because they're moving the ball around, spreading the wealth. Guys are taking an open shot and they're knocking them down. And it's getting to a point now where you pretty much gonna have to pray to the Lord, you know, for this team to have an off night similar to what they did the last time they lost against the Bulls at the Madhouse on Madison in order to beat these guys because they've been that hot. And they're showing no signs of slowing down right now. Beantown, to me, they're looking like the best team in the league, and it's looking like their title to lose thus far.
Those are all very, very big time facts, man. And it's very interesting to see the maturity in Jayson Tatum's game, where he not only understands how to manipulate a defense, but do it in such a conniving way without disrupting the flow of the Boston's offense. That's where he's taking that thing to the next level and also making it work with Jaylen Brown on the other end, which is very fascinating to see. But there's one other person. We got to add one person to this list, man. And, you know, it hurts my heart to talk about this, but we have to do this. Can we talk about Devin Booker? Can we talk about what Devin Booker? I'm not even going to talk about what he did. I'm not going to talk about the Bulls. I'm talking about strictly Devin Booker. Devin Booker dropped 51 on the Bulls. All right, cool. That's the only time I'm going to mention anything about him and the Bulls. But this man, we gotta give him like some type of GOAT symbol for this. He is the only one out of everyone that is not affected by the Kardashian curse. He broke up with Kendall Jenner, came back and dropped, 45 against Sacramento, and then added
44, 45 on Monday night against Sac. Yeah,
and then came and dropped 51. My man dropped 95 points in the last 24, 48 hours. Dude, that is the one light-skinned brother that I gotta show love to. That has shown this curse is not affecting him. He is the key, and he knows the formula to not being caught in this Kardashian curse. I gotta applaud him because he's showing the blueprint for all the brothers out there. If you ever mess with the Kardashians and you break up with one, talk to Devin Booker. He's the one that's gonna get you through the hoop. He's gonna make sure that your game is not affected at all at any point. Matter of fact, it's gonna be even better than what it was before because that dude right there has been on a tear ever since that man became single. A dangerous man is a man that responds after a breakup. Devin Booker's the prime example, fellas. Take notes.
Well, I mean, if you want to go into the Kardashian family, he's pretty much out of all the guys they've dated in the league, the only one outside of Jordan Clarkson who's really a professional scorer. You know, this is what he do for a living. So we kind of expect that. But that's the guy that I think, you know, even though I believe Jayson Tatum is the MVP of the league, as we talking right now, that's a guy who should be within the top 3 of the voting right now, at least in the MVP power rankings thus far of the season. He's been playing phenomenally and doing it in the absence of Chris Paul as well as Cam Johnson and keeping that team afloat on top of the Western Conference where it's a lot of things jumbled up right now. But want to move on and segue into talking about the team that plays later on this evening. Hometown Chicago Bulls, currently in the midst of a road trip right now, getting ready to take on the defending champs at the Chase Center out of San Francisco. But as we know, they've lost 2 out of their last 3 games. In spite of picking up a big win against Utah on Monday night, lost a tough contest at the hand of the Oklahoma City Thunder a week ago in a game that went to overtime. Then, as we just highlighted, lost to the Phoenix Suns, got ran out the gym. Devin Booker put up 51 in 3 quarters, 31 minutes, and shot 20 of 25 from the floor, which is good enough to pass a physics test if you got the finals or whatever going down right now before you get to the ball like college students. Like it was that good. It was that good. You know, like anytime you're shooting 80%, and he looked like he could have easily got 60 plus if they'd have kept him in, but the game was out of reach. He was able to just kick back and chill in the fourth. What are your thoughts, man, on the Bulls thus far as they're currently in the middle of a West Coast road trip? This will be their third game in their West Coast road trip, fourth out of six, which 2 more left on their road trip currently.
The Bulls don't know who they are. They don't have an identity. They don't know which way to play every single night, and they lack discipline in sticking to what works, right? So the inconsistencies from all season, slow starts. That's one of the biggest ones that always pop up. That hasn't changed. But the other inconsistency that comes into play as well is the Bulls' best offense is when they play inside out. When Vooch gets going in the post consistently, especially starting in the game early, it doesn't matter if he scores or not. The fact that you can feed the post and force the defense to shift and move, it increases ball movement and opportunities for guys like Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan to create their own shots, making that job easier. As well as if you move the ball well enough and continue to do pick and roll situations and constantly move around, Vooch will pass the ball effectively to the opposite side corner or whoever the open shooter is, which in a lot of cases for the Bulls is a plus. Why do they not stick to that throughout the game? It's like you start the game that way, but as the games move on, you get to more stagnation. You don't get a lot of ball movement. You get DeMar DeRozan going iso ball. You get Zach LaVine chucking up 3-point jump shots with hands in their faces, fading away, talking about, oh, I can make the shot. It's just bad. It's just bad basketball IQ. And combining that with turnovers and not being able to effectively play solid defense, not just in one-on-one ball movement, but help side defense. The rotations are horrible. And when you don't have that combined with a lack of effort, energy-wise, to play, that's a recipe for disaster. And that is something that the Bulls have not figured out how to consistently improve on. It's always a hit or miss. It's like, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but it's the truth. It's like a girl on a period or a girl with menopause. You just never know what you're going to get day by day, right? Because the hormones change so much. Woo! That's the Bulls. That's the Bulls. You don't know what you're going to get day by day because things change so much. And unfortunately, that's the reality that the Bulls have not gotten over. I don't know what we're going to expect tonight. I can't tell you.
I'm going to say this about the Bulls, man. When it comes to the energy, I believe you're spot on. It's definitely a lot of inconsistency that I notice in the play as well. And what I see is guys on the floor who don't appear to really play for one another or trust one another. It's a lot of times where guys force up shots instead of making an extra pass when they do move the ball for a better shot. Then there are times when the offense gets far too stagnant. And you're relying upon, as you said, the heroic ball of DeMar DeRozan, if not Zach LaVine. Now, I think Zach has improved when it comes to attacking the rim more often and making, and making scoring opportunities for himself, if not for others, is a byproduct of that. But I agree with you, bro. Like I do see a team that does not have an identity. And I see a team that not only does not have an identity, but they let a lot of teams push them around, and there's no fight back in this group. It's no will from within this group to where it's like, hey, I'm not taking that anymore. And I heard an interesting quote from Billy Donovan following the loss to Phoenix the other night, where he was saying guys have to not only move the ball offensively, but do a better job of helping one another defensively, which is true. But the reason why we see so many defensive breakdowns And I've said this time and time again on the Open Run podcast when we've been doing our shows thus far throughout the season. This team does not talk on the defensive end of the floor at all. They don't point things out. And as a result, that's why you're seeing so many late defensive rotations. You're seeing so many shooters on the perimeter get wide open threes. I'm talking about, like, I thought the Nets defense through the first 7 games prior to Steve Nash's exit was bad. When it came to like defending the 3-point line, the Bulls take it to another level, bro. It is far too many open 3-pointers that have been given up to shooters, even non-shooters, with like far too much space. And it's getting to the point where it's ridiculous to really watch. And you add that on top of the fact that this team cannot convert open 3-point looks that have been generated, be it from Vucevic play or DeRozan and Zach attacking the rim. They can't even convert and take advantage of them. And like many people say, this is a make or miss league.
Yeah.
And when you're not hitting shots, you really don't stand a chance. And the thing that I really found funny that Billy said was, well, we need several guys to score in double figures. Where's the several guys scoring in double figures going to come from when guys aren't hitting shots, especially the open looks in which I'm referring to that are being generated? Where is it going to come from? We know that Zach is good for it. We know that DeMar is good for it because, for one, they're the guys that's going to usually have the 2 highest usage rates on the team. And they're going to get the bulk load of the shots offensively. So we expect them to deliver and score in double figures night in and night out. That's why they get paid. You know, they're professional scorers. But everyone else has to really show up. And Vucevic really is the X factor in all this. And he's the guy that they're going to have to find out a way to get more involved. Because if they don't, the Bulls are going to have to seriously think about what or where do they want to go and do in the long term.
See, but I'm glad you mentioned that, because Vooch, he understands that, you know, he's not the most vocal guy on the court. That's just not his personality. That's not who he is. But I mentioned this today on Sean and Maya in the morning show about Vooch. There's too many times when the Bulls do pick and rolls, little guard gets switched on him, dude is wide open, call for the ball. That ball is nowhere near to be found near him. The Bulls it seems like the Bulls don't even look to try to take advantage of mismatch opportunities unless you're like an Ayo or unless you're like an Alex Caruso, where you got a high IQ and you understand, okay, there's a mouse in the house. So let's make sure we feed the big fella because he needs to go barbecue chicken this dude real quick. Like, that's where the Bulls have to make an emphasis in doing. But if they're not going to make an emphasis in doing that, Vooch, I know you're not the most vocal guy, but at that point, it's time for you to speak up and say, yo, give me the ball. I'm sick of this. Yeah. You have to give me the ball.
Who was saying that?
You have to be able to do that, because if you don't enforce what your teammates are not willing to do, especially if they see it, they're not going to just go to you just because. It's not an automatic given. So you have to enforce them to say, yo, I am open in the paint. I don't care who's on me. Get me the ball. Especially since you made it very vocal this offseason that you prefer to play better in the post than outside. Like, you made the emphasis saying that I know I work better and play better when I'm in the post. So guess what? While you're there, you better get some work in. Get the ball. And if they're not willing to give that to you, you got to take it. Because you have to remember you are the third option on this team. It's not Orlando. You're not the main option anymore. So you have to do more to get what you want when you're playing with 2 alphas like Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. That's just how it is, unfortunately. So, and being around a young team, not a veteran team, but a younger team in which the Bulls are currently constructed right now, you got to be more forceful. You got to be more vocal with those type of things. And he knows that he has to find a way to make that work. But at this point, what else can you do outside of making it known that, like, yo, I gotta get the ball? Because there's too many opportunities that the Bulls have not taken advantage of because they do not know how to exploit mismatches. And that's been the key all year long.
But you know why they don't know how to exploit mismatches, Josh? Because it's just like me and you was talking about a little bit on Twitter a couple nights ago. Is there really a guard on this roster outside Alonzo Ball that knows how to throw an entry pass onto the low block? And I do agree with you. Vooch does have to do a better job of calling for the ball, whether that's putting his hand out or in the middle of timeouts telling guys like, hey, when I got these mismatches and I got a smaller guard on me and it's mouse in the house time, that's my ball. Point blank simple. Like it's no discussions there. But they really don't even have anybody that could throw him a solid entry pass. And it's getting to the point where I have to ask myself, and I have to ask you this before I move into the opponent in which the Bulls will be facing off against in the Golden State Warriors this evening. I gotta ask you, bro, like the Bulls, they really can't afford to tank, because even if they did, their pick, which is owed to Orlando this year, the only way they'd be able to get their first round pick is if it's top 4 protected.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that that's out the question. But what would you do if you was in Acme seat, Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Everly seat? What would you do to try and bring some light to this roster, man? Because when I see it on paper and it's translated to the floor, I see a roster that last year overachieved and now has been brought back down to reality in spite of Lonzo Ball being out, going back from post All-Star break last year into now. And we don't even know what the future holds for him long-term after the news that recently came out this week where they say he's still not able to run.
Man, that's why I'm not in Acme seat. Because I do know one thing. I'm not calling the Lakers. I'm not calling the Lakers. These rumors coming out talking about, oh, we want to see if you can trade Vooch and all that stuff. I know one of my ran earlier, but guess what? It's still true today. We segmented and it's still true. I ain't calling the Lakers for a damn thing, okay? That's one. But honestly, I don't even know if in this. I know moves do need to be made, especially when you're talking about people that are willing to truly defend on the defensive end and be spot-up shooters on the offensive end. But at this point, it's about effort. I think that's the biggest thing that you have to worry about. It's effort. So maybe it's not necessarily the players, getting rid of the players. Maybe it's about your willingness to adjust lineups. Maybe it's your willingness to switch up rosters to take the best out of your best players. Because you notice that there's only a couple guys on this team that really really jumpstart the Bulls, especially when you talk about energy and defense. That's Javonte Green and that's Alex Caruso. When they're on the court at the same time, the Bulls' defense and their game elevates. When even one of them are on the court at the same, when even one of them are on the court, their game elevates. When they're not on the court at all, it fluctuates. Good luck, right? So if you can find guys that don't necessarily need the ball, but are great but great cutters, they know their roles, they embrace the roles, and they play defense and bring the energy and the heat. That's something that the Bulls need. They may not even. I know they need shooting and things of that sort. Obviously, they need some additional big man depth. But at this point, why would I even look that route when I can't even get the same guys to even bring me that same energy every night? I need to bring guys that want to hustle. I need guys that's gonna help bring the heat whenever I'm on the court with these guys. Because that's what's killing us every game. Outside of all the other minor stuff, that's the biggest thing that's killing me. I need energy guys. And technically, the Bulls have that. You have at least two of those players. You barely play them, or at least you barely play them at the same time. If I'm Billy Donovan, just switch up the roster and just see what happens. because the one time that we know for sure when he did do that was against Denver. He was getting blown out on their home court by 20 plus. You put Javonte Green in the last 8 minutes of the fourth quarter, you erase that 20-point deficit. You give yourself a chance to win the game. It can be done. It's just a matter of finding the chemistry of putting the right players in the mix to help not only bring the offensive side, but also aid defensively, and to be able to still bring that energy and that spark that the Bulls need, because clearly without it, they ain't going anywhere.
Want to get into Golden State, the opponent, for the Bulls tonight. 11-11 through their first 22 games. 2-10 on the road, but have been 9-1 at home thus far this season. Talk about a tale of two halves there. Led by none other than Steph Curry, who's averaging 31, 7, and 6, on the verge of a 50, 40, 90 season. Once again, he's been the lone bright spot thus far for the defending champs. As I said, this team is sitting at 500. When they playing at home thus far this year, they've been solid. But on the road, haven't really been able to find too much success as of late through their first 12 games this season on the road. Is it time to panic in the Bay, man? Is it really time to panic? I know I asked you that earlier in one of our early episodes of Open Run, but I really got to ask that question now, because Golden State, man, like, they having some meltdowns late in games that we not typically accustomed to seeing. As we saw the other night, in Dallas, Steph traveled, Clay got away with a travel. It had, it had an open look. The center game in the overtime, it couldn't hit.
As much as I want to say, yeah, let's panic, I'm not going to, because Stephen Curry is here. Like, at the end of the day, this is a franchise that has won 4 championships in the last 6, 7, 8 years. They know what it's like to go through fatigue realms at the end of the day. And when you have that type of championship pedigree, you know when it really needs to happen. Look at LeBron James, for example. There's been plenty of times where we thought, okay, Cleveland got off to a bad start. They're struggling. Can LeBron James take them through the playoffs with this roster and all these other type of stuff, right? Somehow, LeBron finds a way to get them to the finals. Whether they win or lose it, they end up getting there. I'm not saying Stephen Curry is LeBron James in that realm, but the Golden State Warriors move and function at the rate Stephen Curry plays. And Stephen Curry this year is having good numbers, if not even better numbers, than his last MVP, than his unanimous MVP season. At this rate, things eventually are going to click. I still think they're in the championship fatigue. I think they're still trying to smooth over the fact that, the light-skinned brother got a bruise on his face from a knockout punch from Draymond Green. I think they're still trying to smooth all that stuff out, man. And, that stuff takes time. But wait until All-Star break, because the good teams really start the ball post All-Star break in preparation for the playoffs. That's where you're going to see Golden State really take off. And then we're going to be like, dang, Clayton got a week of rest. Draymond got a week of rest. Stephen Curry got a week of rest. Jordan Poole can finally get at least one of his pool parties off, so that way he can come back focused. And you got guys that are still emerging. Jonathan Kuminga has been playing great as of late for the Golden State Warriors. He's going to be rejuvenated to come back. You can get James Wiseman coming back healthy. Hopefully, post All-Star break, he'll be ready to go. You already gave Moses Moody some early minutes this year, and he has delivered in some of those big-time moments. He's going to be more prepared this year. I think it's just a matter of just getting through that first half of the season, knowing that it's a long season to go through with 82 games. You're just trying to get through day by day at this point. But once that All-Star break hit, and you come back rejuvenated, knowing that the playoffs are around the corner, they'll be ready to go. And Stephen Curry's going to lead the charge just like he did last season when no one expected him to. And I'm not saying they're going to win the finals, even though I did pick them early this season to be the finals champions. But I think they'll be playing much better post All-Star break compared to where they are right now.
I'm going to say this on Golden State, bro. I understand that they're the defending champions. I understand that they've been there, done that. I also understand that when this team is clicking on all cylinders, they're arguably the toughest team to beat in the league. However, we 22 games into the season, bro. And they currently stand 8 in the Western Conference. Yes, they're only 4.5 games back of the top seed in the West, in the Phoenix Suns, who sit at 15-6. But when December hit and you get near the quarter mark of the season, this is when you should be starting to find your rhythm, in my opinion. This is really the month, in my eyes, where you separate the men from the boys in the NBA. And you see which teams are legit and which teams are not. I'm not saying that Golden State isn't legit. But what I will say is that bench is not as strong as it once used to be, or is not as strong as we knew it to be during the Big Three era when they had Durant beside Curry and Thompson. And I even say Big Four when you include Draymond Green in that. That bench isn't the same anymore. And guys like Jordan Poole, as nice as he's been and as great as he was last year in the finals, got him a big-time payday. Salute to him. And like you said on one of our episodes previously about how, it's no more pool parties and stuff like that. You got to get used to being among the 100. I'm not going to go that far, but you definitely have to be more consistent in your play. And you have to find out ways to get teammates involved and dominate in other areas outside of the scoring department, especially in the minutes in which Steph sits and you're asked to be that sixth man. He's had his moments, but like I said, it's been very up and down. That defense isn't really like in sync with one another. Kuminga, yeah, he had a real nice game against Dallas, but for every game that he's had where he's had a solid performance, he's drawn some DNPs as well, or he's had his minutes curtailed. And at some point, Steve Kerr is going to have to figure out who he trusts off of that bench to play in key situations throughout games, in my opinion, particularly in clutch minutes. If they can find that out, maybe they can turn things around. I'm glad to see that Klay Thompson has turned the corner after struggling early in the year. He had a big-time game against Houston a couple weeks ago. That was very impressive. He looked like he got his three-point shot back. But, defensively, he's not what he once used to be.
Right.
And it shows. And this was a guy who at one point in time I thought should have been on the all-defensive team prior to him tearing his ACL and his Achilles, but he never got enough love from the media to get those votes. But with all of that said, I'm not saying that I'm fully panicking, but I do have concerns. And I do believe that this team needs to wake up sooner rather than later, especially in the Western Conference where New Orleans is coming. Memphis is coming. The Clippers just got a big-time win the other night against Portland without Kawhi Leonard, without Paul George, courtesy of Norman Powell, who came off the bench and dropped 32 points. And I believe he had 20 or 24 out of those 32 in the second half alone. And Batum had some big-time stops defensively, hit some big-time shots. Robert Covington hit some big-time shots. Like, these teams are coming. Sacramento coming.
Yeah.
And in the Pacific Division, you have the Lakers, you have the Kings, you have the Warriors, you have the Clippers, you have the Suns. All of those teams can easily make the playoffs, but one of them not. Let's just be real. One of them is not.
I said right now it's looking like the Lakers. They ain't making the playoffs. But
right. Yeah, but Golden State is in the play-in, and as we know, the play-in ain't nothing guaranteed.
You're right. You're definitely right about that. I think what helps Golden State in a lot of ways, though, is the fact that outside of the points that they score, they're a very good ball movement type of team. Right now, they're number one in the NBA in 29.7 assists a game, 30 assists a game, and 355 3-pointers made. Now, need to mind you, as all this is going on, this is when Klay Thompson, who we just mentioned, was having the biggest slump of his career. On top of the other mishaps that have been taking place. That's always been the Warriors' calling card, especially when, in a lot of times, their defense has been inconsistent. They had so much offensive firepower that they can just override that a lot of times. I'm not saying that's the case now, because I think they don't have as much firepower as they used to offensively. And on top of that, the defense is exposed much more than it used to be. So I think it's a lot of give and take with that. But what I am saying is, in a league, in a make-or-miss league, where yes, you need defense, but if you have the right amount of offense, you can kind of override that defense a little bit. They're one of those teams where they have just enough offense to override whatever defense that's being played against them, and no matter how bad defense they could play, as long as they continue to hit them shots. And that's what I think Golden State is most likely going to do, at least up until the All-Star break. Because, like you said, the defense isn't hitting like it used to be. There's a lot of inconsistencies with that. And I think they still trying to figure out what their roster is going to look like moving forward, especially when you're still trying to figure out what injuries to James Wiseman, figure out what the development of Jonathan Kuminga, etc. There's a lot of different components of this roster that you have to figure out. But the fact that you still had your offense hitting in ways that's still leading the league, even though you are still losing, it's something that, as long as you play at least a little better defensively, you're always going to give you a chance to win these games down the stretch. And that's something that you can never bet against the Warriors on when you already have the superstar in Steph Curry, who he may not be the clutchest, but he does have the clutch gene. So it's something that the Warriors, like I said, I'm not panicking. However, yeah, there's some legitimate concern. Your concern is more concern than mine. I trust my cousin. In Steph, we trust, right? I trust him. But outside of that, but there are concerns. It's just a matter of how they get over those concerns within this stretch, especially when you talk about a team where honestly, this may be their last dance. And if you watch obviously I know you watched The Last Dance. That last year, the Bulls got off to a slow start too. Then eventually
but one thing about them, Mike never lost no more than 2 games in a row at best throughout that run in the 90s. And I think that's what gets lost. Even when they struggled, they didn't struggle to the point where when you get to 25 games, they at 500. The Bulls were always through their first 25 games, at least 6 to 9 games, if not more, over 500. And that's why I kind of had pause because it's no disrespect to Stephen Curry. We know what Stephen Curry can do. Hell, Stephen Curry won a scoring championship a couple years ago with a young Warriors roster that a lot of people didn't even expect to contend or be within the thick of the play-in race without Klay Thompson. So we know what Steph can do. It's just about the supporting cast around him. We know the Warriors' mantra has always been strength in numbers. Where is it? That's all I'm saying. But I want to move on to another team out in the Western Conference, a guy that you was talking about and highlighting earlier in the show. We'll talk about his team, Luka Doncic, the Dallas Mavericks. They're 4-6 in their last 10 games. They just lost a heartbreaking contest last night against the Detroit Pistons, who currently, if I'm not mistaken, are near dead last in the Eastern Conference at 6-18. Luka been putting up these MVP numbers and is within many people's top 5 in the MVP power rankings thus far. But why is it not leading to wins in your opinion? And what do you think Dallas needs around Luka in order to get over the hump? Because right now, Tim Hardaway is struggling from three-point land. Reggie Bullock is struggling from three-point land, and that's what those guys get paid to do. Josh Green has been one of the top three-point shooters in the league and has emerged in his 3rd season out of Arizona. Christian Wood has been a guy off the bench that's been putting up double figures, looking like a guy that could be in the 6th man in a year running. But a lot of people, including myself, feel as though he should be in the starting lineup in Dallas. What's your thoughts on this team, man? Like, they 10-11, and they sit a half a game outside of the play-in picture.
I agree with you, especially on Christian Wood. He should be starting. He should definitely be starting. But I think the biggest thing is the elephant in that room. They miss Jalen Brunson, man. They miss Jalen Brunson. Because what Jalen Brunson brought to the Mavs was stability. And the stability that he brought balance-wise was being able to actually run an offense with Luka off the ball that became effective. Luka's dominating the ball like crazy right now. He's becoming the James Harden of the Western Conference. When you talk about the dribble, let me run this offense, do pick and roll, and find my spot, right? That's what he's doing right now. At least when you had Jalen Brunson, he was able to be a point guard that Luka trusts, learned to trust. And they ran a lot of sets that put Luka in the right positions to dominate off the jump. And when those options were unavailable, then you got the ball to Luka and let him be Luka. That's something that the Dallas Mavericks miss. They don't have that right now. And I know they just signed Kemba Walker, who,
I was about to get into that, yeah.
I know they just signed Kemba Walker, who's someone that can somewhat do that, but Kemba Walker isn't a real point guard. He's like a minute version of Kyrie when you talk about scoring guards. So I don't think he's going to help them get over the hump per se. He may help them better offensively because right now, like you said, they can't shoot or make anything to save their lives right now. And I think, Kemba Walker can help with that. But what the Mavericks really need is a balanced guard. A balanced guard that can offset off of Luka, that can provide ball handling ability, that can provide in a little bit of a clutch gene, and someone that can not only shoot the ball effectively for himself, but create for others while Luka is still the best option on the floor. That's the difference. That's what you had in Jalen Brunson. That's what helped get the Mavericks deep into the playoff run and upsetting the Phoenix Suns. So that's the elephant in the room that I don't know they really want to admit right now. But that's really what it is. You're missing another floor general. And that floor general is not the same. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. It's cloudy days over there, man. It's cloudy days over there in Dallas. They know with Jalen Brunson gone, it's not the same.
Jalen Brunson was a key cognate in that Mavericks offense, especially in the playoffs. And he did allow Luka to operate off the ball with him being on the ball. And you saw Luka doing some things that you typically have not, and I don't believe you won't see him do again until maybe Kemba gets back active and gets fresh and gets, his legs under him after these first couple of games in Dallas. And that's operate as a cutter. In the Western Conference Finals, he did that in the one game that they won against the Golden State Warriors. So as you said, Jalen was a big part and a key piece in their success. But even then, Luka was still operating on the ball. Luka don't really come off the ball for nobody. And I'm glad that you actually compared him to James Harden because ever since he came into the league, that's what I always saw him as. Is like Harden 2.0, except he was younger. I think what Dallas is missing, man, is a solid two guard besides Luka who can play off of the ball and doesn't need to dominate the ball in order to be effective and score. I think Luka has his pick and roll big man and Christian Wood. I just don't think they've got enough floor time together. I think once that happens, Christian Wood could easily be to him what Capella was to Harden during those years in Houston. So that could be a huge move for them if Jason Kidd allows him to get more minutes and play. I understand that he's stressing the importance of defense, and the Mavericks currently sit among the middle of the pack in the league defensively, 13th overall in defensive efficiency. But man, I think Christian Wood needs to be starting, and I also think Josh Green needs to be starting as well, because when Josh Green comes into the game for them, great things happen. He's been shooting the lights out. He's also one of their best wing defenders. And at some point, I feel like if Dallas really wants to elevate, they're going to have to give that young guy some more minutes over Reggie Bullock, especially with Reggie struggling right now. And Tim Hardaway struggling right now. Like they need a boost offensively. I'm interested to see Kemba Walker. Like you say, he's a scoring guard, but I saw Kemba Walker direct the Celtics offense a couple years ago and lead them to the Eastern Conference Finals. Like he do know how to play a little bit of point guard. And what I like about Kemba is not only can he play on the ball, but he can also operate off ball when need be as well. And this team lacks shooting right now from the perimeter. Maybe he can provide that. He says that his knees feel good. He says the best he's felt in 2 years. Hopefully, it's able to translate into some on-court success for him as he seeks to work his way back with a contender, might I add, in Dallas. I asked that question, though, because we talk about Luka. Everybody's saying that he should be the MVP of the league, but yet the guy that we comparing him to, James Harden, who did some of the same night-to-night exploits that Luka was doing right now when he was in Houston, he didn't get a lot of love, when he was doing it. And I've been seeing a lot of stuff on Twitter lately where people have put these side-by-side comparisons up of Luka right now compared to Harden in his prime, saying that they're basically like the same player, but one is widely adored while the other one was largely ostracized and hated for. What's your take on that? What's your take on that, man? I don't know if you've seen it, but I know it's come across my social media, and I have a lot of opinion on it myself, but I really want to get your opinion on it, bro.
No, I agree with it 100%, and I'm gonna take it there with my take, because you know me, I don't sugarcoat anything. They want Luka to be the face of the league. The NBA is becoming more international. They love, and you can tell just by the way they're moving, they want international players to be the face of this American brand in basketball. Now that it's internationally based, they want as much international prospect as possible. That's a given. They got tired of seeing the brothers taking over the league. That's just the reality of it. And they know that Luka is pretty much ideally just like a James Harden. But this is the thing that they won't admit. James Harden at least went to a finals. James Harden at least went to the Western Conference Finals and took the Golden State Warriors to 7 games. At least at one point in one season, James Harden put up 20. He averaged a triple-double season the same year as Russell Westbrook did.
Yeah, he nearly averaged it. He nearly averaged it. I remember. Yeah, he almost did it.
Right.
He led the league in assists that year.
Exactly. So let's not act like, even though Luka's put up these crazy numbers, let's not act like James Harden didn't create the blueprint. James Harden is the blueprint to the direction that Luka Doncic and this team is going. And that's not, and let's be kind of honest with this thing too. James Harden, even though his style isn't a winning style of basketball, he made it work so well that you had hope that it was going to happen. You just had hope. Even though when I watch Luka, as great as he is, with the team he got, I don't see much hope. The reason why I don't see much hope is because Luka isn't what James Harden is when it comes to creating the shot level difficulty-wise. James Harden was all about the three-point jump shot. He can get you in numerous ways from the step backs, but he's also very good at manipulating the step back, making you think like he's going to shoot it, cross you back up, go to the line, draw those fouls, get you 16 to 20 free throws a game.
Yeah.
Luka's not doing that. His is more, he can do that, but he ain't doing that. Most of his is outside the paint scoring. So
He getting in that post though lately because his 3-point shot hasn't been falling. And he's been playing bully ball on the block. Something that Harden has the capability of doing and did do off and on at times in Houston during the Kevin McHale era. But then when Mike D'Antoni came around, he took the 3-point shots to the moon. Like he attempted, I think, 1,000 3-pointers in a season, if not close to it. That year when he averaged over 35 a game and had like the scoring title, he won the scoring title about at least 8 points, which was like the biggest margin since the merger, or the second biggest margin since the merger of the league. So like that's something, you know, I wanted to ask you about, and you talk about how you don't feel like that's a winning brand of basketball, the brand of basketball that Luka Doncic is playing. So with that said, are you saying that you don't believe that Dallas has what it takes to get back to the Western Conference Finals? Because last year they shocked a lot of us, bro. They really did. You know, they upset Utah in the first round. They took down the best team in the Western Conference in the league, really, last year, going into the playoffs, in the Phoenix Suns. And they look like a team that, you know, if things went right, they could have went on a run. But experience prevailed with Golden State knocking them out in 5 games. Do you think that Luka's road to getting back to a Western Conference Finals is going to be much harder this time around?
Most definitely. Most definitely, because when you think about the teams that he played against, that you just mentioned, one of them being Utah. Utah had Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert in a very Spurs-esque type of system under Quinn Snyder. You replace those type of teams are not relevant right now in the league. When you look at the Western Conference and who they're playing against, that was the year you didn't play against Jamal Murray and the Denver Nuggets. You didn't play against the rise of Zion Williamson compared with a Brandon Ingram and a CJ McCollum. That road to the playoffs is going to be much more difficult. And don't let them somehow play in a play-in tournament against LeBron James. God behold that happens, because LeBron only needs 1 game. And LeBron will go, and he has the Mavericks in his back pocket. So I think the road to the finals, to the Western Conference Finals, is going to be much more difficult. And on top of that, you talk about that 2 guard that they're missing. Jalen Brunson was that guy for them. He's the one that really helped accelerate the Mavericks' play on both ends of the floor during that Western Conference Finals run, and really kept the Mavericks up pretty much afloat. That's gone now, and you haven't officially fully replaced that. Now, I do wish the best for Kemba Walker, and I hope he does have a monster season because he's worthy of it, and he still has a lot on it. I think he still has a lot in the tank and a lot to prove. But with that being gone, it's hard to replace a guard like that, unless you're talking about top-tier talent you're going to have to get maybe during the trade deadline to come over to play in Dallas against with Luka like that. And I don't know if they'll pull that trigger. So with that being out of sight, my thoughts ain't on Dallas Mavericks going to the Western Conference Finals again. At this point, you really do have to hope that they even make it to the play-in. You really do, because these Western Conference teams, they ain't no joke this year, all across the board. And I just can't. And even if they do get in, I just can't see them going past a Denver Nuggets team, especially with a healthy Jamal Murray and a healthy Michael Porter Jr. They ain't got a chance. You know, it's it's a different road this year, especially when everyone's healthy. So I just don't see it happening.
That's a good point when you bring in health, because you do have to think about the fact that when the Mavs went on a run last year, Kawhi was out.
Yep.
Then Utah had a lot of things going on in house.
Yep.
You could tell that Utah was playing for a lot last year in the playoffs. Basically, the future of their core. And we know what happened there. Because as soon as that happened, Donovan Mitchell gets shipped to Cleveland. Rudy Gobert gets shipped to Utah. Right before training camp, Bojan Bogdanovic gets shipped to Detroit. So it was a lot going on. And then with Phoenix, I think they just matched up very well with them. They also do match up well with the Clippers, but for some odd reason, they've never been able to get over the hump.
Mm-hmm.
But you talk about how Jalen Brunson was a huge piece in Dallas' success last year, and I'm not disputing that at all. That's facts. But what would you do if you were Nico Harrison in that front office out in Dallas, man? Because yeah, they got Kemba Walker, but trade deadline, you know they're gonna try and make a move, but they really don't have too many guys that they can flip right now. Because Tim Hardaway Jr. stock, I don't see too many people buying that. You know, like what would you do real quick before we move on and get into a couple more things prior to closing time? Is the Bulls and the Warriors currently are 15 minutes away from tip-off.
Call Nike and see if I can get my job back. Because I don't know if you can do anything else, G. I don't know if you can do anything else, man. Like you just said, like it's like you just said. They don't have many players to flip. I don't know what the draft capital is looking like, so I can't necessarily say flip picks. But at the same time, the type of quality talent that they need, I don't know if you can get that anywhere else that's actually available to get right now. I don't see that happening. And unfortunately, you know, I think they have enough talent to do something with, but they gotta fit. But they might have to do some additional roster changes from a chemistry perspective. That may be your best bet, unless for some reason someone gets bought out somewhere. You know, maybe that's your best bet if you can't pull trades. But what we know right now is, like you said, they can't flip any of the current talent that they have in house. So at this point, you just gotta hope Kemba Walker works, and if not, hey, call Nike, see what you can do, because that's an impossible task for me to see at this point. I don't blame them. So it's a tough situation to be in, and unfortunately, I do not see anything happening additionally that they can do. You know, going on over there in Dallas. I just don't see it.
Want to do a quick carousel across the association. Charlotte took down Washington 117 to 116 at the Spectrum Center at home. Atlanta currently up 9 in closing time against the Denver Nuggets out in Atlanta. Got a real close one out in Beantown. Clutch minutes, as we call them. With 4:32 left to go, Miami's up by 1 against the reigning Eastern Conference champions in a rematch of last year's Eastern Conference Finals. Brooklyn up by 14 against Toronto. Cleveland 50 seconds away from closing a game and a win against the Magic. Lakers and Bucks in a close affair right now on ESPN. Lakers up 2 with 7:10 left to play. Memphis up by 12 against Philly at the FedEx Forum in Memphis, Tennessee. San Antonio down 10 to New Orleans. Houston and Phoenix out the Footprint Center. Phoenix up by 6. Looking like Devin Booker might be on the verge of another 50-pointer. Who knows? With the way he's been playing as of late. Utah up by 13 against Indiana. Want to give a shout out too as well to the rookies of the month across the association. In the East, you had Benedict Mathurin take home Rookie of the Month honors. And in the West, you had Jalen Williams out of Santa Clara take it home with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma City, man, they've been raking through Rookie of the Month awards. They said like practically since last season, everybody won a Rookie of the Month awards from OKC with the exception of Jalen Green. And that was when Josh Giddey was hurt. So like, and I think Josh Giddey was the one that was really cleaning the house with most of the Rookie of the Month awards. I want to ask you about that team for a short while, man. Like, what's impressed you with that squad outside of Shea thus far? Is we know this is a young core in the midst of a rebuild situation, but man, like them dudes been competing.
Lou Dort. Dort is my guy. He is what the Bulls used to have. I know you probably remember this player, David Nwaba.
Yeah, I remember him.
David Nwaba. That's who he was, or who he is originally to what the Bulls used to have, right? But the thing that stood out to me about Dort is the fact that he's transcended his offensive game so much. Last year, it was just him improving his three-point jump shot. This year, he's adding a creative shot stick to his my player mode. He's actually creating his own jump shots. And he's timely with it, but it's within the flow of the offense. That's something that stood out to me where I'm like, okay, so Dort is becoming more of an all-around player now. He's not just known as a defensive specialist, even though that is his niche. But he's making himself more valuable in this league and for Oklahoma City by shooting the three and also being able to, when timely, when needed, create his own jump shot. That's a definition of what it means to truly develop talent and develop a player, which is what OKC is known for doing. So that has helped the Thunder tremendously. When you talk about pairing him with Josh Giddey and those guys and those boys, man, it's another level. And I know we're not talking about Shea. I gotta give props to Shea just because of the leadership component. Like, you can tell that Chris Paul effect was mad real for him when Chris Paul was in Oklahoma City. He took notes, and he's built on those notes year after year after year. And for him to see what he's doing right now, leadership-wise, not just from a skill set perspective, but leadership-wise, that's something that we have. That's something I cannot go without further into this show without acknowledging. On top of the fact that his teammate Lou Dort is becoming more of a dart. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I had to get him a little love. Eastern Conference Player of the Month through October through November was Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics, and in the West it was Devin Booker of the Phoenix Suns. I gotta talk about one performance though that caught me off guard that went down last Sunday, I believe, and get your thoughts on that. Ivica Zubac, man. This dude had a 30-20 game. I don't know if you caught it or if you caught the highlights, but man, it came out of nowhere, and that's a guy I want to give some love to, man, because if I'm not mistaken, this dude is averaging a double-double and is in the middle of a career year for a Clipper squad that's finding a way to get some wins without Kawhi Leonard and Paul George in the lineup, even though I believe those two might be set to return tomorrow afternoon out in Tinseltown against the Kings.
Oh, yeah, Zubac definitely gets some love. I think he said it was a 30-point, and he had 29 rebounds that game.
31 points, 29 rebounds, bro.
He was about to have a 30-30 Will Chamberlain game. Come on, man. Like, that's if that's not left field, the Sox aren't playing on the South Side. Like, that's how wild this thing was to find that out. But yes, gotta give him his props. I think it's great for the Clippers knowing that even though that talent has been there for so long, this is a coming out party for him to a point where Ty Lue can be like, okay, I can trust this dude to play against these men. And it's something that at the end of the day, the Clippers kind of needed to pull off that game because it wasn't like everybody else was hitting. He was the only one that was really going hard, was really actually doing something for the Clippers in that game. So it's great to know that even though you're not considered a main option on your team, you have the capability of stepping up every day, night in and night out when needed the most. And that was just his night where he just stepped up and took advantage of it. And now he's taking pictures next to Wilt Chamberlain stats. It's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive.
I got some fun facts for you guys on this one. Zubac became only the third NBA player in the last 49 seasons to finish with at least 31 points, 29 rebounds, and 3 blocks. The last being Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in 1978. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's exclusive company. And I've always been a guy who I respected Zubac because he always did the dirty work, setting the hard screen, protecting the rim, old school type of 5. And a guy that showed a lot of promise when he was on the Lakers. And I never understood why the Lakers traded Ivica Zubac, in spite of the fact that they were trying to clear up cap room to get AD at the time. I never understood that because him and LeBron work well together. But man, has he found a home with the second team in the second city in Los Angeles, man. And I'm happy to see that he had that moment because, like his former teammate Kyle Kuzma said and tweeted out, he's one of the most underrated bigs in the league. And to see him taking advantage of these opportunities with no Paul George, with no Kawhi Leonard, it really shows me, and I know it shows you and everybody else who watches the game of basketball, like, this Clippers team is legit. Like, they really got like 2 or 3 teams within one squad all together. And this was a team that we was talking about a couple of episodes ago on the Open Run Pod, where I was asking you, should we temper expectations? It's kind of hard to temper expectations once Paul George and Kawhi come back, because with the way that this group has been playing, man, great things can happen. But I'm just happy to see that he had that nice of a game, man, albeit against the Indiana Pacers. But still, the Pacers been playing fairly well over the last week or so thus far this season. Tyrese Halliburton has been a most improved player of the year candidate. Some people say he should be an MVP candidate voting. Kendrick Perkins was one of those guys who said it. I saw it on Twitter where he was showing Halliburton some love, but I had to show Zoo some love, man, because you just don't see that often. You don't. And it's one thing for AD to have that type of game, Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic, but for Ivica Zubac, of all bigs in the league, to have that kind of caught my mind, man. It caught me off guard for a minute. It really did. Like, what?
Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely major props to Zubac. There's actually one other player that we haven't mentioned that's not in the NBA, but went crazy and put up Wilt Chamberlain stats at a whole nother part of the country. It's Dwight Howard. This man had almost, I don't even know his numbers exactly per se, but he had Wilt like numbers too. This man was shooting 3-pointers. He was crossing people up. I'm sitting there like, my man's had to go outside the country just to play guard. Like, that's pretty much what he just did. He said, I'm going to go out the country and let them know, hey, I can play guard too. And killed in Taiwan. Killed it. Now, why is he not in the NBA? That's a whole other discussion. But I got to give props to Dwight Howard because he at least has been very vocal about how he felt like he could still be a contributing factor in the NBA. He was having depression over not getting signed and things of that sort. So for his mental health, the fact that he's even in another country right now, killing it on top of that, he seemed like he found his joy back in playing the game. And that's what I would love to see about Dwight Howard. And I'd love to give him his props for that because that's tough. We understand the NBA is a business. The basketball in general is a business. And for him to find the joy of playing the game again, if it's not in America, it's in another country, hey, props to him on that.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Like I'm happy to see Dwight doing this thing out there, and it was funny seeing him take the threes. I'm like, man, they just giving him the green light. He can do whatever he want to do out there. He just working on his game pretty much. I'm not gonna say he playing against no scrubs or whatever, because it's a lot of killers overseas, and a lot of people need to know that. But he did his thing, and it was nice to see. I know they've been trying to get DeMarcus Cousins and Isaiah Thomas over there, but they say they still trying to get a league deal, which I can respect. But I want to highlight some games before we go that's set to take place over the weekend. You got Dallas at New York on Saturday, Sacramento at LA, Milwaukee at Charlotte, Orlando at Toronto, OKC at Minnesota, Houston at Golden State, Portland at Utah. And then on Sunday, you got Denver at New Orleans, Phoenix at San Antonio, Boston at Brooklyn, Memphis at Detroit, and Cleveland at New York, Los Angeles Lakers at the Wizards, and the Bulls and the Kings, Pacers at Trailblazers. What game this weekend, man, among those that I named, mentioned rather, are you really looking forward to seeing before we sign off on this special edition of the Open Run?
Man, I think the one you mentioned, Denver and New Orleans. I want to see. I would love to see that Jamal Murray, CJ McCollum matchup. I want to see how that goes. And Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is shooting the ball, 3-point ball at a high rate this year.
Yeah.
But he's also a very good wing defender. Him going up against Brandon Ingram is going to be something I'm going to be very much looking forward to seeing. We already know what Jokic can do. We already know what Zion's going to do. But that wing matchup with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope being the defensive specialist that he is, going up against Brandon Ingram, who I believe is a smaller KD 2.0, man, that's going to be a beautiful sight to see. I definitely got to tip my hat off to that.
I'm going to say the game to watch out for this weekend is going to be Indiana at Portland. The battle of the guards, man. Tyrese Halliburton against Ant Simons. Ant Simons, man, is having a fantastic year, shooting the hell out the basketball. Got to be shooting over 35% from beyond the arc. Had a game against the Clippers this week where I think he made like 9 threes, man, and was breaking the defense down in a pick and roll game, not only scoring for him on his own, but creating opportunities scoring wise for others. And on top of that, has been a solid defensive presence on the wing and showed why Portland didn't have no problem getting rid of CJ McCollum, because he's taking the reins and some and helped Portland stay in games alongside of Jeremy Grant on nights in which Damian Lillard hasn't been able to go, as we know that he's nursing a calf injury and is expected to return, I believe, for that game. So if he does, now you're talking about a battle between not only Ant Simons and Tyrese Halliburton, but Dame Lillard in the mix. And then you got the rookie and Benedict Mathurin, who was just recently named Rookie of the Month. He could be not only the Rookie of the Year, but the Sixth Man of the Year with the way that he's been playing, shooting the ball. I understand that Paolo Banchero has been the most impressive rookie, and that's the guy that me and Josh predicted to take home Rookie of the Year honors, and he still can do that. But right now, Benedict Mathurin has it due to, the injuries and whatnot. I'm going to say he got it right now, but it's still we still got a long way to go. But that would be a special accomplishment if he could win Rookie of the Year and Sixth Man of the Year. I think that's a game people need to watch. But before we officially depart, I want to ask you, man, what's the keys to this Bulls-Warriors matchup, bro? What do the Bulls have to do in order to not only set the tone, but find a way to steal a win in one of the NBA's most hostile environments?
Man, what they need, first they need to play defense. They need to close out them shooters. The Golden State Warriors are too talented from the three-point line to just leave completely open that way. As a matter of fact, the Warriors have the most made three-pointers in the league right now. Or they're in top 2. So at the end of the day, you got to close them out at the three-point line. That's what the Bulls need to do on the defensive end. Or offensively, Patrick Williams, this is your show. You got to be able to show out because you are the X factor in this starting lineup. We already know Vooch is gonna come through, and with what he can come through, Zach and DeMar are gonna come through offensively with what they can. But at the end of the day, just like we have that 4 slot that's open, Golden State in their own way has that 4 slot open. That's your time where you can take advantage. You can go to work. I doubt Draymond Green gonna be guarding you. So at this point, I think at this point it's Patrick Williams. You like you mentioned, Billy Donovan talked about how he needs some double figure scores. Patrick Williams needs to be one of those guys, and Kobe White got to be one of those guys.
I'm glad you brought him up.
Those two got to bring their A game, especially when you're talking about hitting from the 3-point line. As long as they do that and defend, they at least give themselves a chance. A better chance. Let's put it that way. A better chance. There's always a chance, but they can get a better chance of keeping themselves being competitive in this game.
I'm gonna say first and foremost, attention to detail. Like you said, that starts with the defensive end and making sure that you get Vooch involved early and often. And last but not least, gotta knock down shots, gotta hit shots. And you brought up a guy who I believe will be a key X factor in this game and determine whether or not the Bulls come out of this with a win or a loss, and that's Kobe White. In the last 2 victories the Bulls have had, he shot the ball rather well and made some big-time plays in clutch minutes. We saw the shot that he hit against Milwaukee to help seal the deal. We saw the shots that he hit against Utah on Monday night, coming up big. When he has it, this team looks a hell of a lot different. They look like a team that can do some special things. He is going to be the key X factor. I think Patrick Williams is finally starting to come into his own. Just read some of the stuff that he's been talking about, and you could tell that he's becoming more confident. He just got to learn how to pick and choose his spots and when and where to attack. And I think he's slowly but surely learning that. But Kobe White is definitely going to be the biggest X factor in this one, alongside of Vucevic, who, whenever, as you alluded to earlier in the show when we was talking Bulls, whenever he has a mismatch, feed him. And getting his in, make sure that he's calling for it if you're on their coaching staff, like guys like Mo Cheeks and Billy Donovan and such. But on that note, I want to wrap it up. I want to thank everybody who took the time out to listen in and check out a special edition of Open Run presented to you by War Media. Make sure to follow us on our social media handles. You can follow me at What Gabe Said. And Josh, let them know where they can follow you at, bro.
At Josh M. Hicks Media. You see it at the bottom of the dashboard?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And make sure to follow us on Twitter at War Media, Instagram, TikTok, all that. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out all of our content that's available to you there, such as Bears pre- and post-game coverage, Saul Rodriguez and Miles Porter on the At Bat podcast, myself and Josh Hicks on the Open Run podcast. We got a lot of special things going on. Make sure you guys check it out. Appreciate you rocking with us, and peace.